Got it?
I think we got you right there. There it is.
Yeah. For some reason, it was tripping.
There
What
it
up,
is.
y'all?
What's up?
Hey, well, I just want to start out by saying good morning, and I appreciate both of you for this little conversation. We'll talk for maybe a little bit over a half hour.
Okay.
And the plan today, I'm just going to lay it right out there. We've never had Kevin on the show yet, and his name comes up a lot as a producer for hip hop in Seattle. For people that don't know the history of the '80s, and so a lot of that stuff has not made it to the internet yet. I just have to say that. And so videos like this, I think, are important because we get a chance to remember some song titles, maybe some events, and maybe some names of people that recorded. So that's why I'm doing this today.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to say I was not alive in the 80s yet. No, but
And a lie detector determined that was a lie.
Oh, that was a lie.
But I will say this. I'm going to summarize really quick for a lot of viewers. Kevin's done some cool interviews. I liked your interview with Monet, where
cool.
You talked to her a lot about 3 or 4 years ago about some of your history. You were a piano student as a younger man, and then that led to a synthesizer and a drum machine.
Yes.
For my first question for you, Kevin, man, and then Frostmaster can chime in. Do you remember what brand that synthesizer was? And
Roland Juno 60.
Talk about that.
Roland Juno 60.
Talk about what it could do. Talk about some of the capabilities.
Roland Juno 60 was a basic synthesizer. It wasn't one of the deep heavy ones that had several oscillators like the Moogs and Oberheims and things like that. But it did give a really good tone. A good feature on that was the chorus feature, which made things sound a little wider and stuff like that. But it did the basic things that you needed on a synthesizer, which is obviously cutoff resonance and that pretty much, of course, your tack and your release, all your basic things that it had. So as far as synthesizer and programming the sounds that you needed, it pretty much did that. It just didn't have that extra thick sound like the Oberheims and Prophets and stuff like that, but it was a good introduction into synthesis.
Yeah, it was like a Juno. It was like a junior Jupiter 6.
Yeah,
like mini Jupiter 6.
Yes.
And what Kevin used to do on it, man, he used to play his favorite song, which was "Rockin' It."
Rocking It by the Fearless Four. Yes, I love that song. And the reason why I was able to get the tone of Rocking It is because of that chorus feature that I was talking about. One of the things that made that sound so big was it had like a big for one, it was a big open saw wave sound, and then you put chorus on it. And or actually you take that saw wave and trim it down a little bit so it almost sounds like between a saw and a string, and put a little bit of release on it and put that chorus on it, and bam, you got that rocking sound.
All right, so I'm going to jump forward a little bit. So you're basically like a 15 and 16-year-old young man learning how to operate this synthesizer. Do you remember when you first bought your first microphone, and where did you get it? Do you remember where you got your first microphone?
Wow, you knew my exact age at that time. I was exactly 15, right?
Yeah, you've talked about this in some interviews. It's really cool, man.
Okay. Yeah, so the microphone I use is very interesting. Well, I went through different phases of microphones. At one phase, I had like the Shure SM mic, more like the kind that they had at the radio stations. That was a little bit later on, but really, I started off with like the Radio Shack microphones as my very first ones.
Didn't
we
all?
Which Radio Shack would you go to? Because there was one in downtown on 3rd, I think. But do you remember which one you used to go to?
You know what? I went to whichever one that I was by at the time. so sometimes if there was one on Martin Luther King, something like that, I was going to that. If there was one downtown, and I used to hang around downtown a lot, I'd be like, let's go to Radio Shack. So so it just depended on where I was at the time. I was kind of all over the place.
Nice.
Hey, he hasn't named the drum machine yet that he used.
Oh my God! Now the drum machine. I went through a couple different phases on that. My first one was an MXR, There was this brown drum machine. Then my second one was the sequential toms. I couldn't afford the big sequential tom circuits, the big version that the pros use, but they made a little baby version, which was the sequential toms, and I used that one. And the cool thing is, it did a lot of the features that people liked about the big version because it did that thing to where you can pitch it down and get your, that deep crunchy sound. So I got to imitate some of the things that I liked that the majors were doing with that.
Nice, nice. All right, so watch this. We're gonna move it along. So basically now you've got the makings of a studio in your own house. Can
Yes.
you talk about the first time you were recording somebody else? Was it singing or rapping, or did you first record yourself doing vocals? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, with that, Frostmaster Chill actually was the first client,
Number
and
one.
yeah, he was the first client, and he came in, and he was a DJ actually, and he was doing mixes, and then he kind of morphed into being producer and everything like that, and started bringing his own groups in. But when he first came in and was doing the turntable, and I was like, wow, that's amazing how he can go from one song to the other and keep in time and this and that, because I never seen anybody do that live. And so he was doing that right there in my studio. And as a musician, I can appreciate good timing like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he came and he was mixing a record and then he was off beat to the next one, I'd be like, okay, here we go. But he had really good
No,
timing.
I'm not like Rock Codwell. Oh, my bad.
Now, Rock Cut, that's my guy. He's good.
He's good. Shout out to Rock Movies. Shout out to Rock Movies, man.
Yeah, he's doing his thing.
Yep.
And also, just to set the stage too, Kevin, do you recall seeing the Emerald Street Boys around town, or did you have a feeling of Emerald Street Boys, or were you not aware of them? How would you describe that?
Oh, did I or not? Oh my God, those guys were my inspiration for performing live. Period. Because I remember going to the Black Festival, and I used to, and I was like a popper myself. I was, the street dancer or whatever. So when I went to Latif's, and which was a little club back then we used to hang out at, and I went to the Black Festival, and I seen the Emerald Street Boys. They would rap and sound so pro. They sounded professional as far as their mix, their delivery, everything. And then they would turn around and bop at the end. And for me, that was so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And to this day, when I perform, that's the exact format I do. I perform, I sing, and then I pop.
Yeah, and a fun note about that is before Sugar Bear of the Emerald Street Boys, Eddie Wells died, he actually was coaching
Yes.
Kev through some of his dance moves.
Yes. His signature
The
move, the
strong,
strobe.
the
And you
strong.
know what? And Frost Master actually, he was the one that encouraged me to do that, because he's like, Kev, I see you out here, doing that thing, whatever. But you might as well learn from the master. You know what I mean? So I did actually get to hook up with Eddie Wells, and he actually coached me
Mm.
and everything and like that. So that was cool because you get that hands-on coaching. But yes, Emerald Street Boys, those guys really set down history.
Cool, cool. And I've definitely talked to Frostmaster a lot about those days. Um, the other question I would have would be, do you remember Captain Love at all with his SOS crew, or were they kind of a different part of the city? Because Frostmaster was there at like Union Street. What street were you on, Kevin? What part of the city were you at?
Well, actually, I grew up in Beacon Hill, but I did hang out in Capitol Hill a lot because that's where my grandmother and them were. So that was like the closest to the central area that I was. I was that Capitol Hill area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah, he really didn't know Captain Love and everything because he was way out in Beacon Hill, and he was still only like when KLC, well, SOS at the time was going on, he was only about probably 16.
mm-hmm.
And even though we were like, he might have been 14. Because did I? Well, either 14 or 15. And the SOS, the turntable club group that was around the CD and everything, did these house parties, and those house parties were really kind of rough. So I was older. I was like 18, and
I didn't think those house parties were rough, bro.
They were rough. So for a 15-year-old or 14-year-old to go in the middle of the CD, the hood, was rare, even though he did sometimes go to them crazy parties because of the girls. He said, I don't care where the girls at. So, that's a note on there.
All right, well, check it out. So I have a question for Kevin here now. I'm going to mention 3 MCs who remember you so well.
Okay.
And they remember going to your house, making tapes. Here's the 3 names, man. One is the Colonel G, Greg Steen.
Yep.
One is Daddy D, the Ivory Kid, David Blanchard. And the other is the infamous Mellow Mike.
Oh, yes. I remember all 3 of them.
So, can you talk about some of your early memories of them coming over to record? Because we actually now have a lot of those songs have been kind of uncovered and dug up out of the ground, pretty much, man.
Okay. Well, remember, like I said, Hill, he pretty much morphed into the producing thing after he did the DJ part and everything like that. And they were a group I remember him introducing me to, and they were a cool crew. They were very talented. They all 3 had totally different styles. Colonel G, he had that really nice deep voice and everything, and Daddy D had that. He was very energetic with his delivery like that, and they were, and who else was it? There was,
And then Mellow Mike with that
and Mellow
fuzzy
Mike,
voice,
and of
man.
course, of course, Mellow Mike. He was exactly like his name was, Mellow. He was always mellow, but he was always the guy that he would come in and go, Kevin, the Gardner. So that was,
That's exactly how it would be, too.
And then he'd be like, "How you doing, Kevin? Are you having a nice day? All right." That was Mellow Mike.
The comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, they all definitely had their distinct styles, and I think that's what makes a good group is when they have those. Because even the Sugar Hill Gang and all them, they had the energetic one, they had the more mellow one, they had the Furious Five. They all had their things. So I think them coming with those different deliveries made a good group for them.
Well, here's a question for Frostmaster because we're going to start going into a few of these Creative Choice songs, and we're going to kind of try to remember when and where, maybe if possible. But the first one it starts out, it says, "How much is the brew?" And then it says $3 a cup, and then it says Pace ain't down with that. And that song is really incredible. We think that's got to be produced by Pace. I'm assuming, is that right, Frost?
That's yeah. I would say my brother DJ Pace produced that song. Kevin might have done some back recording on it as far as the vocals. But yeah, DJ Pace was the originator of that song.
To be honest, and to be honest, those days, in my opinion, even when Chill played me back some of those recordings, those times were kind of blurred because of the fact that I would be the recording engineer, but sometimes I would play certain parts, or sometimes I would produce a whole track. So it kind of since it's so many years later, it's kind of blurred on what I did or not. But the one I'm sure I probably did was the one on that had the Michael Jackson thing, just because I that was something I used to always play. It sounds like something I played on the piano with that Mirage hit.
Yep.
Yeah, so that out of the ones you showed me, that's the one that sounds like something I would have produced.
Yeah, it's interesting. The 2 Colonel G songs that we have don't have any samples or any scratches, but some of the other songs do have scratches. Now, question for Kevin and John, you can chime in. Kevin, did you add scratches to your beats, or did you always bring in a DJ to do that for you?
See, that was another thing. What I meant by that too. So sometimes I might have engineered a song that somebody produced and then somebody might have scratched on it, or sometimes I might have produced the whole track and then Chill probably would scratch on it. So we kind of intermixed things like that back then. Wouldn't you say, Chill?
Yeah, because at that time, well, at one time you had the I think you had the Tascam 4-track, right?
The task.
Yeah, you remember that Tascam with the DBX noise filter on. So
Yeah.
I had got one also. So if somebody had a cassette to record, they could go interchangeably between me and Kevin's even back then,
Back
right?
then.
So that is probably why you get a lot of crossbreeding of the studios,
Mm-hmm.
all the way from Creative Choice. Well, also I'm going to clarify this is that Creative Choice started off at as Frostmaster Chill and the Freeze MCs.
Oh.
That's when they were with me, and that's when the Freeze MCs were Daddy D and Colonel G, and at one time Lusciously, who was Lisa Loud, and Dangerous D, who was Donnie Boykins for a short period. Then they dropped out of the group, and then we split. And then when Mellow Mike came in, we split, and I left the group, and then Mellow Mike was embedded into and came up with the name Creative Choice, or they came up with the name Creative Choice. Those three, and they had Jerry Tangaling also come in as a beat maker. So I just want to clarify that. So yeah, there was a lot of, and so there might have been some tracks that Jerry Tangaling did beats on. Uh, DJ Pace, then Kevin Gardner. I know he was on a lot of them. I think he was on most of them. Mm-hmm. And so so Mike probably, I think Mike was like the de facto leader of Creative Choice at that point after me. And so he probably took the tape from one studio to another. And that's why a lot of people don't recall which studio it was, because he was very active. Kev, of course, was super active, doing so many hip hop artists. It's like crazy. And I was active too. And he might have also done one track over at KBD's or King Battle Dragon, Sean Miller's house. I'm not sure about that, but they also might have done one over there, because I introduced them to all of them. I introduced Mello, Danny D, all of those guys together, and then I introduced them to Kevin Gardner and actually brought them there. So that's how they knew about recording at Kevin Gardner's studio, and probably Sean's studio as well. Yep.
I do have one more question for Kevin. In some of your past interviews, you've talked about recording an artist named Chili Uptown.
Oh yeah.
Are you able to share a memory of that guy? Because I've talked to him over the past 3 or 4 years. Would you be willing to share some memories of anything that you worked with him, or how that would usually go compared to other rappers? Was he similar? Was he different? Like, how would you compare him?
He was very different because he was more of a loner than all the rest of them I remember, because a lot of the other ones that would come in would be with crews and stuff like that. But he was like his own LL, meaning like he would be like by himself all the time and everything like that. And he just had like a whole different vibe. You know what I mean? Like like let's say when crews would come in, everybody would be like a community, and we'd be like, "Yeah, man, we got some new programs and new sampling." And everybody would be like, "Oh, what?" And everybody's just kind of vibing with each other. And he would be like by himself, and then I'd be like, "Chili, yeah, man, I got this new sampler, man, and this new thing," and he'd be like, "So what's that got to do with me?"
That's a perfect imitation of Chili Uptown, man. I didn't know you was gonna set it up like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but that was so that's why I say he was a different person. He was very different and kind of eccentric in his own way. But I will say this: one thing is he had a hell of a lot of energy. He had that LL kind of energy as far as in his own way. He was very energetic. The big thing I remember that I can never forget is he always came with the hugest beatbox
Okay.
or what do they call them things?
Boom box.
Boombox, yeah. He always came with a huge boombox. I'm talking about whatever the biggest
Yes.
one was. I don't care. Whatever the biggest one you could find, he would come in with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I remembered about, and that's pretty much what I remembered about him. And he was aggressive in getting his stuff on vinyl and getting it out there. So I got to give him props for that.
He was always in the studio.
Yeah.
Always. He was in Kevin Gardner's studio a hell of a whole lot. I was there too a lot, but he was one of the ones that was there a lot. Me and
Yeah, he
him,
was.
he'd be coming out, I'd be coming in, or I'd be coming in, and he'd be going out.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a song that he recorded before the Red album, before he did that Red the Red album in 1988. He recorded a song called Bob and Weave, like a boxer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob and Weave, y'all, Bob and Weave, and it's
Yeah.
like
I
too
remember that.
short.
Yeah.
Did you work on that song?
On the Bob and Weave, that was one of them things. I'm pretty sure I did because I did most of his tracks.
He says the producer is Marley Marl. And it's obviously it's not the New York Marley Marl, but on the
And I
lyrics,
put it this way. I mean, unless Marley Marl was like a name he gave me, I don't know.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know who that. I'll put it this way. I didn't meet another producer that was working on his music back then. I was pretty much doing his music. The only other person that came along that I remember and he did more scratching was DJ Punish.
Yep.
And DJ Punish came later on in the mix, and right before he got with Mix-a-Lot.
Yep.
But that was about it. But back in those days, I wasn't the most organized, so I just kind of would go with the vibe and just. I know Spade laughing because he's like, "Yeah, you're right about that." But I would just pretty much just kind of go for the flow. I would just do the tracks, and so I wasn't really aggressive as far as making sure that I got credit and everything for every single thing that I did and this and this and that. I just wasn't on top of it like that. So.
Yeah, because Kev, all he wanted was his $20 for his life, and he keep it moving.
That just shows you the economy. And as a 15-year-old, the economy. My sessions were just $20.
Wow.
People can be programmed everything.
Yeah, people can be there. People can be there for several hours, and at the end of the session, I would be like, okay, that'll be 20.
Man,
that's it.
One time he chased me and Big B down when we left, about to leave the studios. Ran real fast. Oh yeah. That'll be 20. And we like cracked up. We were like, damn, this guy is crazy.
And it's crazy to this day. Them guys come up to me, that'll be 20.
Exactly. But speaking of that song, Bob and Weave, yeah, Chili was definitely Bob and Weave in that beat. But we can continue that. But I'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later.
Well, here's another question for Kevin. This is actually sort of a big picture question, but I know that you've very much embraced R&B. You've talked about how you went through a period of doing a lot of gangster rap, and you got concerned. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you decided that positive messages is where you want to be. Like,
yes,
you sort of came to the realization that I want to put out messages I can stand behind and stuff. Not that gangster rap is like always bad, because it does have a voice in the community, but eventually enough killing and shooting and this and that, you kind of it can wear you down, man. But what I want you to talk about real quick is, did you feel a conflict between like rap versus R&B? Like, did you ever say, oh, I have to be both, or neither, or did you ever think about that conflict between rap and R&B, or were they always kind of the same thing for you?
That's a very good question, because actually I was always R&B at heart, and then it was people like Chill that came in and morphed the hip hop into me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what, so I was R&B, I was, the singing, I was R&B, gospel, and jazz that was my foundation, right? And then when people like Chill came in, he was the one that was like, man, we need these beats to hit hard. I want it to sound like hell, you know what I mean? And so that's where more of the hip hop influence came from. And then of course, my clientele was all hip hop. You know what I mean? And everything like that. It was like 90-something% hip hop, and then maybe every once in a while I might get an R&B, but I was always R&B at heart. So So when it came to me doing my own music as an artist, it was easy to make that transition into R&B and positive messages. And as I got older, I just started changing, and then I just got to a point to where I said, okay, you know what? I want my thing is I want to put out positive message to the industry, and that's not a knock on gangster rap or people who do other messages, because I think everything has in its place. A lot of people that do gangster rap actually is they have a positive message in a
Yeah.
different way because they're relating what happened in their community. You know what I mean? And some of them put it in a point of where I'm reporting the news. This is what happened. You know what I mean? So it's to each his own when it comes to that.
Yeah.
You know, a funny note about that. Me and Kev back in the day had a debate about he was trying to get a new drum machine, right?
Oh,
And
yeah, I love
so
this story.
and so I said, man, you need to either get the 808 or the 909, man. That should be your next drum machine. He was like, man, nah, man, that don't even sound like a real drum. I mean, I'm a musician. When people come in to my studio and everything and do music and stuff like that, certain clients are gonna wanna hear a real drum. I said, kid, man, 90% your clientele is rappers. What the hell are you talking about? He said, man, you know what? Actually, the 909 is going to get played out. The 808, that sound is not going to be there for long because it doesn't even sound like a drum. I said, man, it's gonna be here. And lo and
And here
behold,
we are. And guess what? You know what drum I use to this day? The 808. You know?
exactly.
I'll put it this way. Um, I pretty much obviously morph the sounds together. My particular sound, I like to have a live drum sound up front, but the 808 sub knock for sure. The 808 sub knocking just has to be there no matter what. No matter if it's R&B, no matter if it's gospel, no matter what it is, it just has to be there for modern music. You know, that 808 sub knock. But I like my regular drums to, even if it's a drum machine, to kind of sound natural to this day.
All right. Well, here's a question. We got to go there, man. Sir Mix-a-Lot. Did you have what was your exposure to Sir Mix-a-Lot? Do you remember the first time you encountered his music, or do you remember the first time you interacted with Sir Mix-a-Lot? Because for a lot of people, that would be a big deal if he was already, kind of driving the fast cars or sort of having a lot of
Oh, yeah.
the jewelry and stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story before he made it. Before he made it, I was at his place in what was that, in Yesler? I was at his place, and this was when I had the Insonic Mirage, and I was happy that I had the Mirage. I'm like, yeah, I like how the samples are, and he had that Akai sampler, which was 12-bit at the time, and he said, yeah, man, you want a clean sound? Watch this. And he took the microphone and rubbed it on the carpet and sampled it, and it sounded clean. It was like, I was like, oh my God. Because I knew that I could never get a quality like that out of my Mirage. But that was my first experience. And this is way before Baby got back. This is way before all that. So obviously, what did I do? I went out and got that sampler.
Wow.
And so that was my first introduction into 12-bit technology. I got that sampler after that. And from then, we started liking that because it had a loop feature on there. And we started looping the 808 like how LL did. What was that on that song, Chill, with that song with that LL had with the loop 808?
Oh, that was the one produced by Rick Rubin, which was about Kumo D. It was called Jack the Ripper.
Okay, yeah. So we started looping the 808, and we kind of went crazy because sometimes we would have it loop through the whole song and do it, but
Hey,
that was
shout out to your brother Trevor Gardner. He is the first guy, man, that actually did the 808 loop where
yeah,
it was
because
extended like that.
yes, because another quick shout out to my brother. My brother was always, and even to this day, more technical than me on the technical side. So he would be like, he was like the guy on the computer, like, Kevin, one day you're gonna need me. And I'm be like, really? And I'm like, I play keyboards and do this and this and that. He be on that computer. Just watch. One day you're gonna need me, right? And he was right. I definitely need him. When it came to sampling technology and all that, he got me a Kai because you kind of had to be mathematic about it. You had to put the numbers a certain way to get the right loop point. And he found that right number, and all of a sudden, bam, that 808 would just loop forever.
Mm.
Yep.
I mean, stuff like that is easy. They make stuff like that easy nowadays, but back then, you had to be
back
really.
then you had to figure it out.
Yep.
You had to figure it out. Yep.
Well, I'm enjoying this so much. We got about 5 to 8 minutes left. So
Okay.
I got one more question for Kevin here about the studio. Did you ever have issues where people wanted to bring alcohol or like weed, for instance? Did you have to like kick people out, or did you let people sneak a beer in there? Like, I mean, now that all the years have gone by, you know,
That's the least of my concern. It was more crazier when they would drop guns in the studio. That would be that would be more of a concern.
without naming names, just talk about that for a second, man. Like, what would that be like, man?
Oh, it'd be like, okay, so first of all, you got people in the studio, they're high, they're drinking and this and that. And in the 90s, that was like a normal thing. That wasn't nothing or whatever. But then
It's normal now.
Yeah, exactly. You got so much of that loose activity, and then they'd be like, gun would drop on the floor. Oh man, my bad. It's like, okay, no, we got to stop this. This is, because stuff like that can back then it was kind of more normal, but I wouldn't have that kind of surrounding nowadays.
Were you able to like vocalize that and say, "Hey guys, don't bring a gun next time," or did you have to try to tell people like, please don't bring weapons in the studio," like that kind of message?
I did. I was, and I'm sure Chill can kind of say to you, I was a little more aggressive in letting people know back then, because even when we would have house parties, I would walk up to people and be like, "You got a gun, or let's check you, because we can't be doing that here or whatever, and this and that." But that was me back then. Now the way I am, now that I'm grown and much older, I just stay away from that altogether. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, man, I gotta name names, man. ART and stuff would have guns up in the studio. Shout out to my homeboy E-Dog, man. He always carried a pistol. You know what I'm saying? Those were the type of guys, man, that would get up in the studio. Big B probably had a
Big
pistol
B.
on him.
But you know the thing. But you know the thing is, for some reason, I didn't have, probably because I was so close to Art and Edog and them, I didn't have that same issue with them as I did some of the other people that I wouldn't name.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to that, yeah.
Yeah. The real gangsters.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Some of them that wasn't even recording, they were just there.
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Yeah.
Man, well, I'm John. I'm going to let you start to take us out. If you just want to summarize a little bit about like Creative Choice and like what kind of vibe you think. Like I think Kevin put it really well, but because they had three different MCs, you know, Colonel G with the dips and the high and the low, and then you had Daddy D with the anger, kind of like the punch Ronald Reagan, and then you had Mellow Mike with all that vibe. And if you just want to talk about Creative Choice, like what you think about the group all these years later.
Yeah. Well, the perfect way to describe Mellow Mike was if Richard Pryor could rap, it would be Mellow Mike. He has so many funny lines. He's like if 3D was a comedian and spit lines about the hood and everything like that. And he had out of all the rappers, he had a unique sound. It wasn't too much like the industry. He sounded like himself all the time, you know, like average kind of half half urban type of rapper. And
you know my line. You know my line. Your granny got hit by the 48.
Exactly. He was a ranker. That's the epitome of Mellow Mike, right? So and then going to Daddy D. Daddy D was the original like morph of Kid Rock and Eminem.
Oh my God, he was like that.
Yeah, he before we had never heard of Eminem, we had never heard of Kid Rock. Daddy D was doing that style back then, that aggressive voice, like a heavy metal rapper at times that he wanted to rap like, and he was such a ball of fucking fire, man. I'd have to calm him down, when he's doing rap, because he would turn blood red and spit, and sometimes forget about the rhythm, man, and just go. And me and Colonel G had to bring him back, like, hey, man, get out of hell for a minute and
Like slap slap his face.
we want that energy, but it's got to be under control. And he was like 15, 14, 15 years old back then, so you can imagine, what he did. Colonel G was who idolized two people he idolized in the rap game. Number one was Rob Jameson of the Emerald Street Boys. He had his voice down pat. I mean, he could do, as a matter of fact, he could do every rap style of Captain Crunch of the Emerald Street Boys, Eddie Wells. He knew all their lyrics. He knew how to imitate every one of them. And the second person that he idolized was Kango Kid. I can't tell you how many times I sat down with that dude, we listening to a UTFO record, and he's trying to spit the one cut Candy Rapper, right? He tried to memorize and he did. There was only one part he couldn't get that he didn't identify, and I actually texted to him not too long ago what that word was, because now all of the lyrics and stuff are online. So I showed him that. But yeah, those were the different kind of personalities that they had, and I was actually surprised that they all got together, especially Colonel G, because Colonel G is he's like kind of quiet, standoffish, and the other two, Mellow and Daddy D, are kind of really wild. So I was like, man, that ain't gonna last, man, because G don't even fit with these guys. But for a quick second, they made it fit. So that's my outlook on Creative Choice.
Man, thank you, Kevin. I'm gonna throw it to you. We got about 2 minutes left, so Kev, you can take us out, man. If you just want to have any last thought, excuse me, any last thoughts that you want to say to anybody watching, or anything about your career, it's up to you, man. Here's a couple minutes for you.
Well, I just want to say that I think I'm fortunate to have been in the center of all that was going on, and I definitely look forward to the first blockbuster movie about the Seattle scene and everything like that, because I think our story with the groups, especially with Creative Choice, Frostmaster Chill, Emerald Street Boys, all of us, I think it would make a movie that's just as good as anything about anybody else's historical rap group ever made.
Shout out to Rock Movies. Rock Movie, get on it.
Yeah, we need those directors to step up, man. We need those hip hop directors to step up. But gentlemen, we're out of here. We're out of time, and I want to thank you both for the conversation, and we're going to keep it going in the future.
Thank you.
All right, man. Peace.
All right.